right, so welcome back, and we are going to continue using what you've already done as the foundation. So you've already created your vision board, you've defined a high-level goal, and now you've also defined some of those SMART goals. We're going to take that and move it a few steps forward so that you can create that monthly checklist, which will then drive into greater detail. All right, so you ready? So we are going to keep those three constraints in mind. Those three constraints. Remember, their time, cost, scope, and all of that in mind to achieve the quality of life and the art that you envision. So remember, we've got a purpose here. That purpose is to save you time, right? Save you time, give you a checklist so that you can go back to creating in your family and everything that you love to do that's not necessarily business related, right? Okay, so our next steps is to define our monthly goals. And so there's two key components with those monthly goals that we really want to focus on. And that's number one, it should roll up into those SMART goals. And I'll show you specifically what I'm talking about here in a second. But it rolls up into the SMART goals. The second thing that your monthly goals should meet is that they should be repeatable. Okay? So when we think about repeatable, that they happen month after month. In order to achieve a goal, you have to be persistent, passionate, and progressive. So each time you do it, progresses you towards your goal. So that's why it's important for it to be repeatable. So when we think about it rolling up into the SMART goal, this would be things that are like, if we go back to our SMART goals, that are measurable and time bound. So you can measure your progress within the time frame specified, which is 1 month, right? And then the evaluation will tell you if that SMART goal is attainable and realistic. And it's okay if you need to modify your goal to make it attainable and realistic, because things might not progress as fast as you would like them to happen. So for example, weight loss. Everybody talks about weight loss. And so a lot of times we think about, okay, I want to lose 2 pounds a week. Well, that's not attainable all the time, right? Various variables come into play with all of that. So, but there might be 1 week that you lose, 6 ounces, and then the next week you lose, 3 pounds. So there is some progression, and it's just a matter of how fast that progression is, right? But that 2 pounds over time, when you balance it out, is attainable and realistic. Sometimes it's not. So is it realistic to lose 8 pounds a week? No, not being healthy, which if you think about back to our quality of life, we want a high quality of life. So you want to approach this thing in a healthy manner. Is it realistic to your goals? So yes, you could probably put 1,000 items up on Redbubble in a week, but is that realistic? Is it healthy? Does it create a balance? So all those things kind of come into play. There's a lot of things that we think about when we come back to these. Is it attainable? Is it realistic? Is it realistic? I really want to harp on that for a second. Is it realistic given all of your responsibilities for your family, for your art? Maybe you've got a second job. Maybe you're caring for an elderly parent. Is it realistic? And that's a personal question for you. So that's why these checklists, the cookie cutter checklist, it's not going to apply for everybody. This is your checklist. So I kind of harped on that a little bit longer, but it was just a point I really want to drive home, because attainable and realistic is what makes it feel good when you're able to check off that box. So what's realistic and attainable for you might not be realistic and attainable for another artist, right? Okay. So what I'm getting to there is that you may need to adjust. Let's talk about adjusting. So if your goal is to increase sales of original artwork and the objective, let's break that down. So break it down into small parts, right? We want to increase sales of original artwork. That for me creates several SMART goals that I would want to have. So increase sales of original artwork. A SMART goal that I might have there is to sell 2 original pieces of artwork per month. Is that realistic and attainable? I might not know yet. So let's just go ahead and keep that goal, and then we can adjust it as we move forward and measuring our goals, right? Because that's very measurable. So the other one, the other SMART goal that I might get just to achieve the increased sales of original work is that I need to increase the traffic to my shop by 500 visitors per month, because what we know about conversion rates is that an average 2% will convert and purchase. So if you think about that, that's 2 people out of 100. How many people do you have coming to your website? And then do the evaluation there. So I would need to have at least 100 people, depending on my conversion rate, and then you got to also look at your sales page and all these other variables, right? So my goal is increase traffic to my shop by 500 visitors per month. That I can see breaking down into lots more little goals to achieve the checklist, right? Because we're still going for a checklist. These are just goals, right? How do we get to the checklist? So when I think about these, my monthly checklist might look something like this. Each month, I would need to evaluate the number of new users who come to the sales page. So again, knowing that 2% typically convert. So I would go to my Google Analytics, and there's a course about Google Analytics here that you can go check out. I'll include a link in the notes. So I would go to my Google Analytics and see how many new users, and then look at the conversion. And this would be something that I probably need to calculate, is how many people of those looked at that sales page and actually converted and bought either a print or the original piece, right? That's measurable. Then I would document the original art sales in inventory database. So I want to keep track of all my sales, right? That's how I know if I met my goals for the year, right? Then I would also want to update my budget and revised income, because while I want to sell 2 original pieces of artwork per year, I might also have a income goal there. So I want to keep track of that in my budget with revised income. And then finally, because you got to do this every month anyway, is submit the taxes. So all of this information also plays into submitting your taxes, because you need to know how much income you made. So as you can see, you might have a lot more in your monthly checklist. Okay. So in the resources section, this is where you get to do some homework and kind of break it down for yourself. There is a workbook. I want you to go ahead and download the workbook, and then we're going to go through how to do this in another video, while I walk you through that workbook with very specific examples. Okay? And then also included in the download section is an example of a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly checklist that I've put together in general terms of things that I would do when I was selling a lot and trying to, make the art sales and do all that stuff. This is essentially exactly what I did. And I have added some more things in there that I do now based on how I interact with social media. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that too. So let's go ahead and download the workbook, complete it, and we're going to jump into actually the nitty-gritty of doing the work and creating your very own checklist. All right, so let's get started.